Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to a new episode of All About Textiles. In today's episode, our guest is a personality whom I admire as she's doing something great for the upliftment of the society. She is a social entrepreneur working with the artisans at the grassroots level. She is a graduate and a postgraduate from NIFT, a prestigious institute. So it gives me immense pleasure to introduce Rameshwari Call. Welcome, Rameshwari, to this episode.
Thank you so much for having me here. And I'm trying to do my bit.
Thanks. Thanks, Rameshwari. Uh, as we have been talking about the subject about what are the activities you have been doing from last so many years at the grassroots level. So I thought that the first question I should ask you is that you can share your professional journey with us, and then subsequently also share why did you choose this social entrepreneurship as a professional career.
So my journey actually started when I was still pursuing graduation. My project, the graduation project that I did, was with Khadi Village Industries Commission back then. This was 2008, and what I came to know was they had a lot of dead stock pile up at their warehouse. So upcycling was not a very trendy word back then. But what I did was I created products out of those dead stock what they had left over, and that was it. I made the project. I got the best design award for that project from my college. And 2 3 years back when I went to meet them again, I came to know that they were able to clear up to 2 crores worth of dead pile stock with the designs that I'd given them in their Khan market store. So that was I think that was my first stint in actually trying to do something that was meaningful. This is 2008. Since then, I got to work with Fab India. I was working with Ministry of Textiles, and the calling was always to go back to grassroots and work with artisans. So that's how Cotton Rack came into fruition. And
Okay.
with Cotton Rack, it was very simple to keep it very minimalistic and basic and stick to the roots. What the roots are: basic hand spun, hand woven clothing. I mean, that's the simplest and most basic form of clothing that we have ever been using since Indus Valley civilization. So, cotton has always been an inherent part of our ecology, the apparel ecology as such. And hand spinning is something which is very close to any culture, actually starting germinating into a huge tree of fashion. So the seed is actually hand spinning. Of course, today we do not do so much of hand spinning. It is mostly mill spun. But the whole idea was to go back and trace the roots as much as we could. So that meant finding out how hand spinning worked, working with handloom weavers, trying to find indigenous fibers. So even though we started with just scouting fabric and sourcing it, today we proudly say that we actually work with indigenous fibers and getting them made from the scratch. And it's been an amazing journey. It has been a huge learning curve as such. Because, for example, I didn't know when we started working in wool. I always thought, because I hail from Jammu Kashmir, that I thought Jammu Kashmir will be the biggest wool producing state of the country. And
Right.
I live in Jaipur right now, so it was a surprise that Rajasthan is the biggest state producer, and the wool is mostly carpet grade. It's not even apparel grade. So then there was again a huge learning curve on how you use that indigenous sheep wool and make it into a softened apparel based fabric. So this is how it has been entirely for us, trying to find something innovative and then trying to figure out how you can build a value chain around it.
Right.
And in the process, I think it automatically generates employment. It is automatically sustainable. So in longer run, sustainability is not something we really talk about a lot. But
Right.
yeah, it's
Right.
a process.
Right, right. And I think the kind of products you are dealing in are naturally very sustainable. You don't have to go for a claim that, okay, this product is sustainable, because the kind of value chain you are addressing to and the production processes you take care are, I think, more or less sustainable, which I understand.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. We think that sustainability is an overused and abused word. It's greenwashed. Sustainability itself is greenwashed. So we try to stay away from that and just try to address how it is supposed to be done. That's the
Correct.
main focus.
Correct. So, if I ask you in a nutshell, what kind of product merchandise you have been handling over these years? So, maybe some kind of products you regularly are doing, and some products which you are already innovating and working on?
So we started with women's wear at Cotton Rack, and that was when we were just sourcing fabrics, and then we got into making textiles. So we
Okay.
started with handspun, handwoven textiles, and then so there is a very interesting place in Jammu and Kashmir where they used to do pashmina, and
Right.
then due to some political reasons, the supply of wool was cut off in that cluster, and the land. So these weavers were partial farmers also, so the land came under dam water and they were migrated to Rajasthan and Punjab. So there was a small community which was still left, and we were able to do cotton with them. They were already trying to experiment with cotton, and this cotton looked and felt exactly like pashmina. So we worked with them. Sadly, there was no weaver left to do it anymore. So we went ahead and we set up a setup. We gave them looms, we gave them yarn, and there's a very small cluster that we have of our own in Jammu and Kashmir where we do this fabric we call Kashmir cotton.
Okay.
So it's a trademark applied, and it's an absolutely gorgeous fabric. It looks like pashmina, it feels like pashmina, but it is 100% cotton. So we call it vegan wool because it's cotton. So you can use it across the season, and because it's warm, fuzzy, and loosely woven, so it has a certain coziness to it also. That's a hugely admired fabric of ours. And most recent thing that we have done is we worked with some people who were doing indigenous cotton denims, ahimsa silks, but that was again a collaboration, not something that we did of our own. Something that we have been working on ground is indigenous wool right now. So Rajasthan boasts eight robust varieties of sheep that have
Okay.
different quality of sheep wool, and mostly it's been apparel grade. But thanks to association with some very good scientists, ex-scientists, we have been able to figure out how to make it soften for apparel
Okay.
grade. And this was again a collaboration that we did for a buyer in Netherlands, and the collection just took off. We had a great response in India as well, and we continue our work in wool, indigenous wool, because we are very familiar with Himalayan wool. We are very familiar with pashmina. What we are not aware is that merino, Australian merino, has great inroads in our wool industry right now. So what happens is because merino is heavily used, so the industry setup is for merino yarn. So if you go try to find some setup where you can process your indigenous wool, that does not exist.
Okay.
So you really have to start from scratch, figure out people who are using indigenous tools, work with them, and then try to see how a scale is possible in that setup, because it's absolutely taken over by in Australian merino, and now a breeding cross breeding of Australian merino and Indian merino called Bharat merino.
Okay. Okay. So, as I understand, Rameshwari, you are working across the value chain with different kind of an environment, with different set of people. So you must be facing a lot of challenges day in and day out. It's not like a conventional spinning mill or a textile mill where you have specific standards of doing things and SOPs are there. Because
No.
you are dealing with different people, different areas, ethnic, culturally different people. So what kind of challenges do you face when you work with these people,
Thank you for saying that. There are no SOPs because there are none. So because
Yes,
you're working at the grassroots level, so there is human dynamics which is always involved.
right,
Then there are
right.
environmental dynamics, and then most importantly, environmental. So let me just address something which is very basic. So in Rajasthan, when again, my I would say insensitivity to the whole issue, I thought solar panels are very good, and it's good for green. It's a very good green step towards building a better environment. But in Rajasthan, most of the solar panels are built on common grazing lands, which the nomad pastoralists used to use. So now that
Mm-hmm.
there are solar panels on common grazing lands, where do these pastoralists go? So the pastorals ka number is decreasing, leading to a decline in number of the sheep.
Mm.
So
Okay,
how do you address that? This is
okay,
something we cannot address at all, and this is also important. So I mean, something as simple as we were working with West Bengal once, and we had heavy rains. The looms got submerged underwater. How do you,
right,
and you have to ensure that people are still getting paid in some
correct,
sense. At least the
correct.
minimum wages are being won. When COVID hit, we partnered with Ompuri Foundation, and Antapuri ji was very kind enough to help almost 500 artisans at that time. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then ensuring that you connect with them later, and there's some collaboration that can happen and work can happen. So
Mm.
there are lot of dynamics that you do not foresee. As my co-founder very aptly puts it, you will try to close one loop and there will be another loop, and you will be
Right.
baffled that you made the system foolproof, and there's another thing that you now have to deal with.
Right, right. I understand. So I think that's why I asked you that it looks very, from the outside, it looks very glamorous, but then I know that what kind of hard work and inputs are required to get such kind of merchandise done.
I can
Another
add,
thing, yeah, yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
I'll just
yeah.
add a little thing. My personal opinion, a lot of people may disagree. So I find fashion as such a very glamorous field, but
Hmm.
handicraft is more nuanced, and it's more gritty, and it's more grounded. So yes, it sounds very interesting, but I think the fashion industry that you see on the ramps and the brand that you see, that's a very different life altogether than as compared to when you get into the social entrepreneurship bit of it.
Yeah, I understand that. So another question, Rameshwari, would be the government of India is putting a lot of efforts, like they are trying to promote handloom for exports as well as domestic consumption. So a lot of efforts are being done. I think recently National Handloom Day was celebrated with great pomp and show. I think Mr. Modi was personally there, and there was a huge gathering and a lot of respect given to this kind of a production and the kind of availability of these kinds of handlooms from India for other parts of the world. A lot of things are getting done at the level of the government. But do you think that these efforts are really helping the industry to grow, particularly your segment?
So I like to prefix something to the whole answer before I say it. So the thing is, post COVID, the entire globe has woken up to the reality of sustainable textiles,
Right,
and they are looking at India because we have a plethora of fabrics that we can offer. We have a plethora of fibers that we can offer,
right.
and the only knot that we need to unknot here is the people in this value chain, the weavers, the farmers, the shepherds, all the people who are working on different fibers. So what has happened is the government of India has given a lot of subsidies, have given a lot of programs, a lot of incentivizations, a lot of schemes, which is actually helping them. So I can give you a very good example. So there's a scheme called Sfurti. So
Yes.
Sfurti is essentially for cluster development. And
Hmm.
initially, a lot of the Sfurti schemes would happen only on paper.
Okay.
So there was a lot of siphoning off that was happening. And now there is so much of scrutiny, even in Sfurti itself, that people only who are interested in doing work, only they can apply. Anybody who even has an idea of, let's say, siphon of even a 10%, they cannot. The entire process has been made so foolproof that it's very hard to get through anyways. So the number of subsidies that are now being given, the way in which they have held a tight nose over NGOs. So I see a lot of change that is happening in this government, but there's also a very interesting thing that we need to always remember is that within textiles there is a Ministry of Textiles and you have Ministry of Commerce. So under
Right.
Ministry of Commerce you have MSME, which is
Okay.
khadi. So you
Right.
have a very different set of rules for khadi, and you have a very different set of rules and subsidies for textiles. So in khadi, I would still say there is some scope left because even after revision of the let's say the wages of spinning and weaving, there's still some scope, but I think that will eventually be addressed. But in general, there are a lot of subsidies within Ministry of Textiles, a lot of programs which are really helpful, and yes, people are getting benefited from it, especially for the second generation weavers and second generation of these artisans. So they feel
Hmm.
that they are educated, they can they can create their own brand, and then they start their own Instagram account, and they have the funds, and then they start selling and shipping. So I think
Hmm.
that has really helped the second generation because otherwise they would just cut off and say we don't want to work with what the father has been doing so for so far.
Right. Right.